an inclusive space, just like a safe space, is where one feels welcomed. And this is regardless of maybe the language they speak, the race they're from, the culture, whether they're white, whether they're brown, whether they're red, whether they they are blind, whether they are deaf, they can't write, they're lame, and all that. So this person actually, for that environment, the training environment that you're having to be inclusive, you need to be able to take into account all that and ensure that these different individuals feel welcomed and they are not judged. And then the other thing is that there is equal opportunities, that is for participation and contribution from these diverse people that we have. One thing that I think is very, very, sometimes I normally laugh so much about is that the fact that, I'm a Christian. I'm sorry to those that are not. But normally, whenever you just look around and you see how God has created everyone, and He loves actually everyone, irrespective of whether I am blind, I wear specs. So, sometimes I'm like, God, do you love me halfway or you love me equally? So, and the ability that we all have to like breathe the oxygen that He has given us, so, and contribute to daily living, right? And I think that is like the same thing we need to bring to our training spaces. We need to bring to our coaching spaces, to our classrooms, or under those trees, whether you are coaching under a tree or you're coaching in a classroom or anywhere really that we are coaching. We need to be able to give people equal opportunity to participate and also to contribute to the things that are there. And then also, lastly, we need to also be able to understand that there are diverse perspectives among the people that we are talking to, right? And then for us to create an inclusive space, we need to, after understanding that there are diverse perspectives, we need to then be able to respect these different ideas and views. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because every single time you hear a new idea, it helps you to better relate to this person, and it helps you to better understand this person. When we better understand our learners, we are able to like give according to what they need, according to the different needs that they have. For example, Sharia in her class might be having a student that probably has low self-esteem, or has a past trauma, because of something that has happened, or they just are insecure about themselves, maybe because they are differently able than other people. So if she understands the needs of this person, she's going to be able to respect them, the different ideas that they have. Someone might come and tell you an idea because of the kind of space that they have been exposed to, and they have not been exposed to other spaces. And we should be able to respect that. Someone may come from a place where they only know bougie things. I remember Xavier can testify. I think along the way, when you're coaching, sometimes you find students and they're telling you something that is out of your generation, really. I remember one time in one of my coaching classes, sessions at the school where I coach at, one of the students told me something, and I was like, okay. I have never felt so old. I felt so old that day in that session. I was like, oh my God, I think this is something from like generation Z or something like that. So, but then, falling back and you're like, okay, you appreciate the fact that this is an idea that is coming from a different level of exposure, a different level of understanding, makes you be able to respect their ideas and engage with their ideas at that level that they are at. And you use that to bring home the points that you are probably trying to teach. Now, I think a study that was done by a poll, is called a Girl Up poll. It found out that 70% of the students say they perform better when they feel included and supported. And I can imagine in the coaching, in the debate space, and in the public speaking space, poetry, you may be coaching poetry or, essay or something like that. if we included all our students or made it feel home, the environment feel homely, we would actually expect big results. The other time we were talking about how to measure success, right? So we would be able to measure that success, and get a lot of success out of the students that we are. Because when you feel welcomed, when you feel uh, at home in a given place, you're able to do your best. But now, when you're not feeling welcome, you're feeling judged, you have a lot of other things you're dealing with than just the assignment or what the teacher is teaching you with. Yeah. So we have learned about what an inclusive space looks like. We have also looked at what a safe space looks like. And Matthew has already tested that testified that he creates a safe space for his students. I hope someone else can create an inclusive space. So I think there is also another question that we need to ask, really. So someone might be asking, so why am I learning about an inclusive space, or why am I learning about a safe space? Isn't that like the role of, the HR, or isn't that like the role of the senior woman teacher, or isn't that like the role of the administration, where I am to ensure that these students can talk to them? I'm just a coach, really. But then we need to be able to understand that it actually matters for you as a coach, you as a trainer, you as a facilitator, to be able to create an inclusive and safe space. And why? It's because at the end of the day, just like we talked about in the previous slide, it's going to be able to boost learning and engagement of our students, because they feel safe, they feel included, and they are going to be more free to engage with you. Even when they have probably wrong things that they had in their mind, they're going to be able to engage, like air that out. They're going to talk to you about it, and you're going to be able to correct them. At the end of the day, they have learned something. So the other thing is that an inclusive and safe space helps to build trust, and at the end of the day also build the community where you are, right? Because if the students around you trust you, if your coaches trust, sorry, if your learners trust you, they know that you can keep a secret, or you can help them when they need the help. It's going to be like a community. I normally say, I call that like a family, where the needs of your students, you can respond to the needs of your students in a respectable manner. You help them and they learn. In return, they're going to have, they'll know that I can trust, I can trust on Shadia, and because when I talk to her, it is very easy for me to understand, even when a difficult concept. And when you create that kind of environment, you'll find out a student who doesn't feel, welcomed in another class, maybe English, to be like, but I had this question in an English class. Can I talk to you about it? I had this problem in the other lesson. Can I talk to you about it? And you would like be a bridge between the student and the administration to ensure that things are actually going on well. The other thing is that an inclusive and safe space reduces potential conflict and misunderstandings. First of all, it happens between you and the student, and also it helps you between you and the community as a school where you are, because when the space is inclusive and it is safe, you are able to understand the students, and then there'll be no conflicts or misunderstandings between you and the students. Also, the administration or the parents that have trusted their children to you, they'll know that, no, my kid trusts this person, and the relationship they have is a professional kind, that is safe for my child. And then the other thing is that the last thing that not necessarily the last thing, but one of the last things we're going to look at in these slides is that it enhances personal growth and respect among the participants. If a child knows that they can raise up their hand, they say whatever they have to say, maybe, and then, the fellow students, instead of judging her or him, will engage or also bring their own ideas on the same topic. At the end of the day, there's going to be personal growth for each and every child in that learning area that you have. And also there is going to be, they'll have respect among themselves instead of a space where people are bullying themselves, people are harassing themselves, or there is harassment. You're also harassing the child is being harassed by the fellow students being bullied. Then you also, you're a very, you're a coach, a mature coach, but you're also disturbing the child, and you're like, the child is like, huh, now where do I go to? My fellow students are harassing me. Even the coach is not giving me, a safe space. What happens? You'll find that the child may either drop out of your class, the child can report whatever is happening to the parents or even the administration, and you'll be in trouble. So it's important for us to like ensure that the spaces that we're training in is inclusive and it's also safe. Um, I hope I am not talking to myself. Okay.
I am getting you.
Thank you, Matthew. So there are a few things we need to look at. Some of the principles that we can use for inclusivity. The first one, and it's very obvious, is that we need to respect everyone. As a coach, respect your participants. In my school, we had a teacher that had very many, but had an issue with students, start raising up and then saying something in class. And because my mouth was very open, I almost received pains. But because I was also very fast, I ran for my life. Now, these were like, kids are very innocent. Sometimes they're so curious, they want to know certain things. So you can how you can listen to them and then you respond to them because you are an adult, and also they'll feel respected even when what they're saying is not within the context of within the context of what is being discussed. You can still respectfully correct them so that they don't feel like an outcast, or they don't feel bad at the end of the day. When you respectfully respond to them, it also gives them, it also opens their eyes and like, oh, I think if that child was doing it intentionally, he or she will be like, I think coach savior has seen my stupidity, and like it would help them to sit down and question themselves. Sometimes I know kids are very stubborn, but then you're like building them up. It might not happen, or that transformation may not happen there and then in your class, but then maybe later on they'll give a testimony and be like, because I sat in Coach Joseph's class and he did this even when I was very stubborn, I am now a better person. And then the other thing is that another principle for us to ensure that there's inclusivity is being open-minded, where we ensure that we are not judging. You as a trainer, we as trainers, we don't judge the students, and also we encourage the students themselves not to judge each other, respecting each other's opinions, knowing that these people are from different backgrounds, different families with different beliefs. Um, the other thing is that we need to have empathy and understand also and value individual differences. Then also we need to be able to set clear boundaries. We need to know and set expectations uh, of what you think behavior in class should look like, what you think the language in class should look like. Do you want your class to be having children who probably are going to say things that very obscene languages, or very inappropriate languages? Someone stands up to say something and the other person, you're like, oh, are you sure you're a child? you know if we set these boundaries clearly at the start of our coaching or at the start of our training, students, the learners, know that when it comes to Coach Daisy, she doesn't tolerate this. She doesn't tolerate bad language. She expects you to use proper language in her class. when it comes to Coach Matthew, he doesn't tolerate poor behaviors in his class. He wants you to behave in a manner that is good to yourself and to your neighbors. And that will like guide their behavior, their language, or even their engagements with you and the pupils that are in that class. And it also helps you, saves you the time of having to explain yourself over and over again. I think it is very, you know, it's very exhausting to have to explain yourself over and over again just because you probably did not set boundaries, and children are just to whom it may concern. Yeah. Then also, like we said, among our objectives, we would look at practical tips for building inclusivity and safety as well. One of the practical tips we can actually use is that we need to recognize and address personal biases. And we need to be aware that these personal biases will come up, but then when they come up, are we able to recognize them? When we recognize them, are we able to address them in a way that doesn't hurt, the person that has brought that up? And then also, you, first of all, as a person, you need to be able to address your own biases. You might have a bias on a given thing, and then a child probably is coming to tell you that, okay, this is what I think, what my thoughts or what my beliefs have made me think of this particular topic. And you can't even leave the child with time to say it out. You're like, no, 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 no. Oh my God. Being in your class would it would be a pain. So we need to be able to understand, recognize our own personal biases, recognize the personal biases that may come up. When we recognize that, we also address them. Then the other thing is that representation matters. Very simple. Make sure that all the voices are heard. If someone wants to speak up, let them speak up. Let them not be judged. And then the other thing is that is adaptability. We need to be able to adjust to learning styles and abilities. There's some students or some learners who may not understand when we keep on just talking, but when they practice whatever you're telling them, as you tell them, they're also practicing it. It is better. I think it's something that I've seen over time, that people have different learning styles and abilities. In as much as coaches and as trainers, as teachers, we also have different teaching styles and abilities. We need to recognize that our learners as well have different learning styles and abilities. Now, are we able to adjust our teaching styles and abilities to be able to attend to the different learning styles and abilities that our learners have? As a coach, we need to be able to do that, so that at the end of the day, we just don't go and sing in class. We just don't go and speak in class, and then the child is like, what was happening? When we have left an impact in the lives of the people that we're learning. And then the other thing is that we need to take into consideration cultural sensitivity, being aware of the different backgrounds that our learners are coming from, and being able to respect that. Also being able to, ensure that whatever we are doing does not necessarily judge whichever cultural background a learner is coming from. And, crazily, you might find that even you as from wherever culture you come from, you'll be like, okay. But then we can't always know that we are from always different cultures. The learners that we are teaching also are from different cultures. But then we need to respect one another, respect the ideas that they come with, and then ensure that each and every person participates and they contribute to the learning process. Now, we have been looking at inclusivity. We have been looking at how to create inclusive spaces. We are also going to look at We're going to look at how we can create uh, safety in the spaces where we are normally doing the training from. Maya Angelou, I hope I've not butchered that name. Maya Angelou said that I have learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Just for purposes of empathy, I want to read this again. I have learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That is according to Maya Angelou. Now, in the process of us creating a safe training space, we need to know that there are different forms of safety, just like we saw at the beginning of the slides, where we have psychological safety, where we have probably a no tolerance policy on harassment. That's like, an example. We are able to ensure that someone feels psychologically safe, emotionally safe. They know that when I say something, when I do this, even the response that is coming from our mouths, the response that is coming from the fellow learners, the things we do will keep them in a space that they are safe psychologically or emotionally. The other thing is that we need to also look at having or using inclusive language, where we try to avoid offensive or exclusive terms, right? In our class. And this comes from a background where we know that we have a diverse pool of learners from different families, religious backgrounds, cultures. So if we can, we need to be able to avoid using offensive language. So that's up the where we allow our participants to always, whenever they have a concern, they are maybe being bullied, they are facing harassment, they can always give us those feedbacks, even about our own classes. The way the sessions are going. Someone can anonymously send you a cheat, or you can create a what is it called? We used to have those things in primary. Is it a safety box? Like, you can create a box or something, that is safe, is in a place that a child will not feel shy to go and access when they need to voice out a concern that they have. And also they have the option of either making it anonymous, or they can, if you find a child that is very bold, they'll come and tell you about it. And when it is a concern about you or your teaching material, let us be respectful to the feedback that we have received, and not put this child's confidence in shutters. Let's build their confidence, respect them, and give them feedback, or correct them if probably what they're saying is wrong. Correct them in a way that will not make them feel very bad the next time they have something serious they need to tell you. Then also we need to maintain confidentiality. We keep those stories and experiences that have been shared with us private. But from a safeguarding angle, if it's something that is very important and it's infringing on the right of this child, harassment, bullying, we need to be able to report them, and we need to know the proper channels of reporting uh, whatever has happened. But also we can do reporting in a way that would not make the child feel uncomfortable. Then the other thing is, how then do we embrace diverse perspectives? One of the things is that we need to actively listen to every contribution that has been made by our learners and value them. We also need to be able to create inclusive activities that can be able to attend to all the personalities that we have in our classrooms. Then the other thing we can do is to have accessible spaces where we ensure that physically these spaces are accessible. Also online, there is accessibility. For example, when a space, when we have a crowd that probably would prefer physical or online, we're able to like make sure that things are we cater those kind of preferences according to the organization and according to also how you as a coach you see fit. Then also we need to be able to have regular check-ins. You can't just check how the participants feel about maybe the environment they're in, about the topic that they have been discussing, about the exercise that they did, about how they feel about, interacting in the classroom. If they feel uncomfortable, we address them. And this is like actually an opportunity for us to be able to uh, hear those, feedback from our own content, our delivering methods, and also the environment as well. And then we are able to respond to them and also use that as an opportunity to train others and those other ones. Okay, I've over talked. Are we still together? Matthew, if you can be kind, you can. Okay, Shadia, thank you so
Yes,
much.
yes, yes, yes.
Leonard, thank you so much. Uh, how do we build trust as a coach? We can be open and transparent, making us approachable to the students or the learners that we have. Uh, then we should also be able to show respect, empathy, and openness. In when we are doing that, we are showing them the kind of behavior that they can look up to, and you know, we are modeling. We are being role models or models to them. They can look at it like, oh, Coach Shadia is very respectful. I also want to be very respectful. You know, we can also encourage peer support where participants can support one another. If we find that maybe Xavier is very good at building arguments, and Leonard is very good at public speaking, and they're in the same class, you can always and they need help from one another. They can always help one another, like, and they know that when they're doing that, they're doing it respectfully with no judgments attached. And in such a way, we're going to, like we said earlier on, we're going to have a team that we have built. Also, there's going to be personal and broad development in the class and among the persons that we are having. Now, there is an important thing that we need to look at as coaches or as teachers or as people that come into contact with students, children, young people, and that is grooming. It is a very big issue, and sometimes we do it. Sometimes we do it, and it may feel like it's just something very easy, something very simple. It's not much of a big deal. I hope today, after this session, you know that what grooming is, how bad it is, how you can avoid yourself from being a culprit of grooming. If you need baptism so that you don't, we can pour water on you and you become a new being so that we have our learners protected at the end of the day. So what is grooming? Grooming is where, as a coach, as a trainer, you're going to build trust with a person. Often, the minor that you are coaching, the minor that you're teaching, or someone who is vulnerable, and the intention is that at the end of the day, you're going to manipulate or you're going to exploit them. Um, some of the key characteristics of grooming is that it can occur online or in person, and it's often subtle, and gradual, it is, and now that makes it hard to detect. And sometimes, you know, I want to imagine that sometimes you build these relationships because you learn. Sometimes it's just a professional relationship, but because the devil is a liar and he has never stopped doing what he does, you're now deceived. We are deceived, and then you think that you manipulate the relationship that you have with this child. You would have practiced grooming, but like we said, we have water. We can always pour it on you, and hope that it's going to cause cleansing and transformation. So how do we recognize grooming behaviors? We need to, first of all, for us to be able to recognize it, we need to also be able to understand the different stages of grooming. And then we look at the moments where grooming then occur, and then some of the examples. So the different stages of grooming that we have is that at first, there is targeting a victim. You will identify someone who you think is vulnerable, and this someone who is vulnerable may be the minor, that girl that is in your class, or that boy that is in your class, or you know, that person that does not hear properly in your class, that person who is lame in your class, the blind person or the deaf person in your class. And then after targeting a victim, you then start to build trust. And building trust may look like you giving them attention, so much attention, attention that is not actually called for, you know. And then you also offering to give them gifts, and yet it is not your usual behavior. Your students know that when it comes to Coach Gracious, she does not even give you sweets in class. I hope that's not the impression my students have. So, you know, you start building trust by, you know, you give them more attention than you're giving other students. You offer gifts, or you flatter them to gain trust. You've targeted the victim. We have built the trust. Then later on, there's going to be isolation. Now, what does isolation look like? Isolation would look like maybe creating a secretive relationship between the two of you, you know, a relationship that has gone beyond the professional kind of relationship. And to the child, they might think like, oh, this teacher is so nice. Oh, this is really beautiful. And they'll go back home, tell their siblings, Teacher Gracious is so good. She buys for me sweets, you know, she listens to me when I talk to her. And then the other thing is that when we now get to isolation, the instead of the child, you know, children are very interesting people. They'll come and tell you everything that has happened. And it's beautiful to listen to a child, especially, you know, when they're coming to tell you, and you're now telling the child that don't go and tell mommy about this. Don't go and tell daddy about this. Don't go and tell anyone about this, or even your fellow friends. Don't tell them that I gave you gifts. And then also, we start encouraging maybe the victims to keep the things private instead of letting the child be a child, really. Because if what we are doing is right, we should be able to let the child be able to speak it out. Because if they say, you're like, oh, okay, that is if what we're doing is right. Then the last bit is now that after we have targeted them, we have, you know, gained their trust, then we have started the isolation, making them keep secrets, making their lives miserable by making them keep these secrets. We then start the exploitation, part. Now, this is where we'll now start manipulating this victim for personal gain or harm. And this personal gain or harm may look like sexual advances at the child, may look like us emotionally abusing this kid, you know, and using them for our own personal gains, and something that makes them uncomfortable. So we need to be able to recognize this. It may not, you may, as a coach, you may not be doing it, but when we recognize that, when we are able to recognize it, we can see it if it's happening through another person or through the people we are, the other people that are dealing with these children. It might not even be the children you're dealing with. It might be someone who is your someone who is near to you, your niece, your child, or something like that. So after we have seen what the different stages look like, we're also able to look at the warning signs. So this would look like unusual gifts or favors being given to a participant. Like I said earlier on, Gracious does not give people even sweets or even says thank you in class. Now I am starting to give this particular child gifts in class, or giving them, um, um, favoring them, being given to, favoring this particular child. Then the other warning sign is that there is unnecessary private interactions between the coach and then the participants. You find Gracious is now doing, it's like, oh, so and so, can I see you after everyone has gone out? And also, after that, you're also going to, like I said, you want to see this person after everyone else has gone out. But even what you want to tell them is not developmental at all. Instead, we are going to use them for our own personal gains, like we talked about earlier on. And the last point is what I've already explained, really. Your request for secrecy or private communication outside of the official channels that are there. Also, it is very important for us to understand the different official channels that we have to communicate with the students, and also what the organization, the school, or the parents allow us to do. If they don't allow you to have any communication with this child in any online platform and you can only talk through them, please respect that. Maybe with time, when the child has grown, they can now give you the contact and you start talking to them. But still, when you talk to them, it is about the classwork. It is about things like, helping them grow as a debater, helping them grow as a speaker with no strings attached. As coaches, we ought, as teachers, trainers, we ought to be able to give freely. I think there's one thing that I always hear one of my friends say about, giving back to the society. And you can see that this person is actually giving back to the society, and it's like they don't expect something back. And I'm like, okay, I thank God I didn't do economics or something like that, because I think with economics and business, there's like a transaction that happens. But this person is so open to having, just giving back to the society, ensuring that the students or the children around him are educated. There are people who can speak. There are people who their talents are discovered and nurtured. And at the end of the day, we have a new breed of African leaders, a new breed of African citizens, right? So yes, that's how we can recognize grooming. First of all, we need to be able to understand the different types of grooming that can happen, and then we can recognize the warning signs. But after we have recognized that, we need to even be now able to prevent grooming in the spaces that we're training in. As a coach, what can you do? As a coach, what can I do? We need to be able to set boundaries that are professional, and the relationships that we are having with these learners is a professional kind of relationship at all times. Then the other thing is that we need to be able to encourage transparency. How do we do that? We can do that by trying to avoid, private communication or one-on-one meetings without others present. It can make people suspicious of you as a coach. Sometimes you might be doing that because probably you have good intentions and you don't have ill intentions. But to others that are looking at you, it's like, to those that it's a good practice. What is the good practice that you would do as a coach? We need to be able to avoid having one-on-one or isolated conversations with a particular student alone, with no one else there. A poor practice would look like you actually doing that, going ahead, having a one-on-one conversation with this person, and it is probably in a very suspicious place, and you're like, and at the end of the day, we are not protecting ourselves as a coach. We are also not protecting this child. Then after we encourage transparency, we can as well implement safeguarding policies. We need to be able to create clear protocols for which we interact with the participants. You'll find that sometimes in different organizations, I know DI has a safeguarding policy that every staff need to adhere to. Other organizations should be having the same. So if those safeguarding policies are there, as a coach, please abide by them. They are not there to make you look like a bad person. It is there to actually help you as a coach, so that you also help the child or the learners that you're going to engage with. The other thing is that we need to be able to educate the participants about grooming, and also we need to be able to encourage them to speak up if they feel uncomfortable with a teacher, with a child, or with any other coach, really. And like a good coach that we have been talking about, ensure that you've created a safe and inclusive environment where a child can actually come and talk to you. You ensure there is confidentiality. And if they report to you cases of grooming, this is not something you need to keep quiet about. You need to find possible solutions as soon as possible for the same. Because if you keep quiet about it and it continues, you are a party to that grooming. Then the other aspect of preventing grooming in training spaces is now at the organizational level. And it looks like having regular background checks for the different staffs and volunteers that we have in our organization. Also having a reporting system for concerns and suspicious behavior. And I would advise that this reporting system is one where we encourage prompt reporting, so that we are able to deal with the concerns as soon as they reach us, and ensure that we make this child free of all the trauma that they are going through. Then the other thing is that ongoing training on safeguarding and ethical behavior for the staff that we have and the volunteers that we have, coaches, teachers, or any other person that is an adult that has access to the children that we have in our organization. Grooming is not only done physically, grooming can also be done in an online space. And what are the risks that are there online? First of all, groomers may use digital platforms to connect with participants. Also, the risk is higher when we have unmonitored or private communication channels. Normally, it is advisable if you have a group, or let's say you have a WhatsApp group and the children that you're coaching are in that group, try as much as possible to have all conversations in that group where, it is, no one can actually, you don't give the devil room to tempt you to do something you wouldn't want to do. But also, if a child contacts you as a coach, you need to be able to know how to deal with that in a professional manner, and not lead the child, or not do something that would be harmful to the child at the end of the day. That also looks like you setting your personal boundaries, and setting the boundaries even when they contact you. But like we said earlier on, you can actually make the expectations very clear. You can let them know that if you want to contact me, give me a call instead of sending me messages, so that you discourage any familiarity through your chat. But then if it is necessary and it is very urgent, they can always call you. During what time? Not times that are very questionable. during appropriate hours, and they can talk to you about the issues that they have. What are some of the mitigation tips that we can use? We can use official platforms for communication. We also try our best to avoid private messaging. We can also monitor and regulate online interactions during our virtual training sessions. You may be having training sessions, and then you'll other things are happening behind your back. So we need to be able to monitor and regulate them. Lastly, I'm going to leave us with this quote. It says that safety and inclusivity are not just policies, really. They are the foundation of trust, growth, and transformation in every training space. The author of this is unknown. Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to me. In case you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Vincent, you've been very silent. Do you have any question?
Sorry, Gracious, I've been listening keenly, but I'm just multitasking here. Just have a lot of work that I need to get done by the end of the night.
Thank you so much, Vincent.
But
And
thanks so much for the session.
you're welcome. In case someone else has maybe anything else they want to say, which is not a question, feel free to say it. Just make sure it's appropriate to what we have been discussing. Yes, Francis?
Thank you so much, Gracious. Actually, the session has been so amazing, getting to understand the overall concepts within this kind of conversation. However, I have some. It could be some bit of an inquiry, whereby when you talked about grooming, is there anything like positive grooming? I think that's what I would like to hear about.
Thank you so much, Francis. Is there anyone else with a question so that I respond at once? Okay, I am going to take the silence as it's not there. Um, to respond to your question, Francis, I think things like mentorship and guidance would be us, having positive grooming to the children. And then someone else typed something. So, Francis, to answer your question, just like I was saying, I think mentorship and guidance, also being able to build self-esteem to the learners, also setting positive examples and teaching life skills would probably look like what you. I think I would be more comfortable calling it mentorship and guidance instead of positive grooming. I don't know if that responds to your question. Thank you so much. Uh, uh, Leonard is saying, in case stupid people coaching an institution, how do you ensure your reporting is not a personal attack on the other coach? Thank you so much, Leonard. I think to respond to that as well, one, it's very important, like we have been saying, to also understand the person that you're coaching with. I realized I got muted. Sorry about that. So I was saying, Leonard, that like we have been saying I'm assuming that I got muted when I just started because I received a call. But then, as I was saying earlier on, we discussed how, as a coach, you're also able to recognize uh, and be able to notice that grooming is happening, or there is a case of uh, there's a breach of the child protection policy that we have, and it's a safeguarding issue that is happening. Now, if you notice that and maybe a child has as well reported to you, or it might not even be just as a coach, or a child has reported to you about another teacher, for example, I think one of the first things we need to be able to do is to uh, be very objective and fact based when we are doing the reporting. And that would look like you being able to stick to the facts that probably you've observed or the student has told you, and we avoid assumptions or personal opinions. And then also we try to use appropriate language. Now, that would look like you sitting down and packaging your reporting in a way that then would not look like you're being subjective, right, to your reporting. We just make sure that our reporting is very objective and fact based. And then also, we focus on the behavior that we have noticed or the behavior that has been reported to us rather than the person that we are reporting about. If someone maybe we are coaching together with you and one of the kids come and tells you that Gracious is doing this and this, and you also observe that Gracious is doing this, that, and that. Now, it is important for you to focus on the behavior that you've noticed or the behavior that you've been told rather than focusing on the person. That helps you in a way that if Gracious is a very clear-headed person, they'll know that you're talking about a given behavior that they have or they have been doing rather than you focusing on Gracious as a person. And then maybe we also ensure that we verify our intentions. What are your intentions of reporting? Yes. So I know that sometimes probably we will try, because we are two coaches and you want to be the one that is very favorite, the favorite coach, and then we do reporting in a way that is going to harm the other person's reputation, and kind of reporting that we have not observed or based on assumptions rather than the facts that we have collected. Yeah, I think basically that's how we can do that. One, being very objective and fact-based in our reporting. And secondly, you focus on the behavior that you've noticed or what you've been told rather than the person. And then also we verify the intentions of the reporting that we are doing. I hope that helps, Leonard. All right. Is there any other question? Or is there any other feedback? If we do not have that, I'll take us back. Joseph, do you have something to say? It seems Joseph does not have anything to say. Thank you so much for attending this session. It is my prayer that going forward, the environment that we are doing the training in is one that is inclusive, one that is safe for the learners and ourselves. And then also we discourage any grooming that may happen, or the thoughts of grooming that may come to us. And then the other thing is that it's also my prayer that going forward, after creating inclusive and safe spaces, our learners can be able to trust us and we impact their lives positively, so that at the end of the day, we have someone looks back and they're like, because Francis taught me so well public speaking, it opened doors for me, it opened my eyes, and it made me a better speaker, a better leader. Have a blessed evening, everyone. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Precious.
You're welcome, Vincent.